On several of my comic review videos, I get this comment. How do I read this? Where can I get this? This fact tells me that most of you don't read comics. Dollars to donuts, I bet most of your knowledge about comic books comes from movies, games, shows, and probably a lot of YouTube lore videos. And I'm not hating on people who watch that kind of content or make that kind of content. I watch that kind of content and make that kind of content. If you like comics content but aren't reading comics, you're just doing yourself a disservice. By the end of this video, I'm going to give you all the tools you need to actually read comics. Now, the obvious answer of where to get comics is a comic book shop. This is how you can get singular issues we call floppies. Typically, a series is released monthly. This is the most direct way to support the comic industry and get the newest releases. Now, there's problems with that. I'm going to address the hurdles people run into when trying to read comics. It's not the 90s anymore. Comic shops aren't all over the place. I know for me, the closest comic shop is about 35 minutes away. That's a lot of time and money to devote towards a hobby. But there are ways around this. At almost any comic shop, you can create a pull list. Comics set aside each week for you to pick up and buy in bulk. Now, putting them aside and buying them in bulk means that they will give you a pretty good discount. Maybe you don't have the time or the transportation to get to a comic shop. There's ways around that too. We live in the digital age where almost everyone has an app. Comic book publishers like DC Comics, Marvel, Shonen Jump, Dark Horse all have apps with monthly subscriptions that give you access to their digital catalog. This way you can keep up with all of their recent releases and have access to a massive back catalog. There's also sites that provide free comics like Webtoon, Tapas, Global Comics. You can find stuff from the big name, indie publishers, and independent artists. I will admit, I have read a ton of comics on my phone. It's just simple and easy to have a comic book pulled up on my phone, and whenever I have a little bit of free time, just pull it out and start reading. And even then, we hit the problem of cost. I get it, the economy is rough. But you're not getting out of reading that easily. A free public resource to a huge catalog of comics is one that everybody should know but rarely use. Your local library. Gone are the days when libraries were filled with just dumb wordy books for nerds. Now they're filled with dumb picture books for nerds too. You'll be able to find large collections of manga and Western comics on the shelves. Libraries often have educational classes as well, movies to rent, sometimes video games. A library card is free and you'll have access to a literal buildings full of content. There's really no reason to not get a library card, especially if you're paying taxes. There's also the useful site archive.org. It's a site that collects all kinds of media, TV shows, books, movies, etc. You can find comics on there too, and you're not breaking the law. But even with all this, there are hurdles. There's stuff that gets in the way. I will admit that I wouldn't have gotten into comics as a young man if I didn't have alternative means to access them. I wouldn't run a comics channel. I wouldn't be a comic book writer. And probably thousands, maybe millions of people wouldn't be comic readers either. So if you do find out ways to acquire these comics, be careful. Always deploy some digital armor when skulking through the dungeons of the internet. Use a VPN, employ a virus scanner, download an ad blocker. But saying all that, I want you to keep in mind that comics cost money to produce. And the people who make these comics need to live. We live in a capitalist system, and without money, this stuff doesn't get made. While comic book movies, shows, and games often make moolah, the comic books themselves do not. So keep in mind that if you like this stuff and want it to continue, you need to start shelling out some cash. And to show that I'm not a hypocrite here, you can go to the King Rex Comics page at Global Comics. There you'll find shorter stories that have been featured in anthologies, stuff that never made it to print, and the first issue of my self-published comic, Brother Rabbit in the Jazz Age, to read for free. If you'd like to get your hands on an issue of Brother Rabbit, it's only $10 a comic, plus I throw in a little poster, a bookmark, and a sticker, and money keeps me from dying. email me at kingrex929@gmail.com and we can work out an order. Now I've given you a ton of ways to read comics, we're gonna hit the next hurdle. Where do I start? How do I read this? There's 300 something issues of Batman? How am I supposed to catch up with that? Well, I have some good news for you. It doesn't matter. I'm serious. People hype up the decades of history and lore in these superhero characters. The truth is, these stories are meant to be picked up and digested by new readers. Even if Batman has, let's say, 600 something issues, there are plenty of jumping on points, typically when the writer or artist changes. The stories and explanations are set up for you to catch up with what's been going on and just enjoy the story. And then you can learn about the lore later. I got into the wider Batman universe through the events Cataclysm and No Man's Land. This was well into the 90s. By this time, Batman and his cast was well established, but the stories were set up in ways that I could easily learn who they are, what their deal is, and get reading. And now, I'm a huge fan. It's a lot easier than people make it out to be. On top of that, that really only applies to the big name superhero comics, company-owned products. There are plenty of shorter creator-owned series that have one solid creative team. And frankly, I want you to read more non-superhero comics. Even if you don't usually read comics, I guarantee you can find something, some kind of story that piques your interest. Kaiju in the prison system. The Final Days of Sigmund Freud. A Cronenberg-esque body horror. I know it's fun to have a YouTuber with a smooth and elegant voice condense several issues into about a 10-minute package that you can easily digest. But I promise you, it does not match the experience of actually reading. The artwork, the panel-by-panel movement, the page turns, anticipating a new issue each month, discussions with the fan base, the hurdles, the obstacles, they're all in your mind. Erase them. You can read comics! I believe in you. I'm King Rex. Like this video and subscribe for more comic book reviews, analysis, and recommendations. Go to Global Comics to read some of my own work for free. Join the King Rex Discord to get in on an active community of comic book fans. We'd love to have you. Until next time, remember to support the things you love, with money preferably, and keep on reading.